guess, good morning. We'll go ahead and get started. Great to see all of you. Maybe in a minute we'll have them turn the air down. Do you want to ask her, Mark, and see? Because I think it's cool enough in here. If it gets hot, we'll turn it back on. That way you can hear. Great to see everybody. It seems like it's been a long time since we skipped June, or July, I guess. Started August, right? We skipped July 4th. So welcome. I see a few new faces. So typically the procedure here is Kate and I spend a little bit of time talking about some of the projects and initiatives our government entities are focusing on. You're welcome to interrupt us at any time with questions, concerns, suggestions. And then we always open the floor for any topics that you would like to discuss as a group. This is an avenue that's very helpful to us to hear what citizens want. And so, you know, don't be shy about speaking out on things you'd like to see. This is what it's all about. So you want me to start? Yes. I wanted to announce that our Legacy Trail, which has been 5 years in the making, it's a walking trail from the amphitheater going east about a half a mile. Construction should be beginning any day now. It is a Department of Transportation project. We received funding 5 years ago, about $500,000, and the Department of Transportation are the kings of process. They really, is that what you want to call it? Yeah. They really, actually, in some respects, they do a great job in making sure projects are done well. And so it gets a little frustrating for those that are trying to implement the projects. It's a long process, but hopefully we get a good outcome through their looking at every aspect of it. So the construction for that, Mark, who's the company that we're using?
TLC was awarded the bid.
Okay, so TLC has been doing quite a lot of work in grants. And I think we're fortunate. It's mainly because they are interested. There's not always companies interested in coming out of Albuquerque or Santa Fe or Las Cruces to do work, construction companies. So TLC is really expanding out, and they've done quite a bit here in the Grants area. So they will be the ones doing that project. I believe the engineers are Wilson and Company, and also WH Pacific has done quite a lot of work. So we're excited. Some of you may remember I wrote the grant for that program before I was even at the city. We were part of a Healthy Communities initiative and wanted more trails in our area. And so a group of us initiated some trail development, and there was some funding available. So a couple of us worked on that grant that the city applied for. And so it really makes me happy to see it finally, but while I'm still alive, you know, some of these projects take a good 10, 20 years to get going. Other happy announcement is just got a deposit on the coffee shop at the library.
Wow, great.
Yeah, our marketing coordinator has really, she's sent out letters a couple of times statewide and even in other states, just trying to solicit a business to expand or come into our area. We had 3 different groups look at the coffee shop this last month, and a gentleman who moved here, Edward Arnold, I don't know if any of you have met him. He moved here a while back, and I think he's from back east, but he had a coffee shop back there, has some of his own equipment still. He's going to be, put his deposit and rent yesterday, and he's hoping to open around the 1st of September. I suspect it'll be a month or 2 later, just from my own experience, how it takes to get things up and running. But I'm so excited to have somebody going to open that up. I think it'll be a good addition to our library. Plastic bag ordinance. Many of you have probably heard that the city council, one of the city councilors had asked us to consider a plastic bag ordinance to ban plastic bags basically at our retail and grocery stores. So we've been exploring that for probably a good 6 months, maybe a little longer. It's going to be on the agenda for the city council, not the passage. The way it would work is the city council has to support the initiative, and then it would be an advertised ordinance that would be advertised for a couple of weeks, and then they would vote yay or nay. I'm not real hopeful that the council's going to put it forth. Just in listening to some of them, I haven't talked to all the council, but a couple of them are not getting a positive response from the public, and many of them, which is good, they're asking their constituents if they support an ordinance, and at this point it doesn't sound like our public is supporting it. We have a Facebook page, and our marketing coordinator put up some information, and there's been about 100 comments on there, most of them not for an ordinance, and a lot of the comments are you should be focusing on more important things like infrastructure, your streets, your roads, your water sewer lines, vacant buildings, and we are focusing on those things as well. So I was kind of hopeful, you know, I'm good either way, but I feel like our nation's going towards trying to be more conservative in protecting our assets, our community from trash, from you know, having so much going in the landfill. And I always feel like we're at least 10 years behind the times. Whatever's happening in bigger cities, we kind of, it straggles down to us, but you know, at least we're talking about things like that. And I know one of our coffees we brought it up, and I think Joe Chavez brought up that for every action there's an opposite and equal reaction, and he talked about some places that banned plastic bags found that then it hurt other industries. So anyway, something for us always to consider, how can we become a better community? It will be on the city council agenda for August 5th for the council to talk about a little bit.
Let me interrupt you a little bit.
Sure.
I've had tons of calls, both sides.
Both?
So I'm looking at both sides of it and see what kind of reactions they have. We said that the plastic bags don't just get used one time and throw them away. People reuse them constantly. And the other people say, well, we just need to get rid of them. So
Yeah.
as a councilman, I'm listening to not just my district, but the whole district. And it's kind of like a 50-50. So what if we just put it up for a vote on this coming election that's coming up?
Yeah, we possibly could. I think we'll have to look and see what the criteria is to get something on a vote. It would probably be on a county election ballot in November.
Yeah, there's some new changes right now with that.
Okay.
They're trying, what's happened is the clerks have got direction from new statutes, the bills that passed, and one of them is the actual election. So they're going to have a local election, and everybody, every entity that's recognized through the state can put elections on that ballot. But if you're not an entity, there's no. Yeah, so for instance, water boards, they are an entity that can be, their elections have to go through the clerk now, and it's only one time within the year. So it's they're working at it, but I'm pretty sure, like the county, the grants the city could ask to put something on.
Right. We could on our ballot, which will be, we didn't consider going with the once a year election and getting on board with the state and the county, so our elections are still in March. And I'm trying to remember if it's this coming March. Is your position up in Sydney Riddle? So it would be that election we could possibly, but I think there's some criteria that you have to look at to put something on a ballot. We can't just say, well, let's throw this on there. But it might be something we want to take a formal vote. I know Milan did a survey off of their web page, but I think they only had a response of 40 people. And to me, that's not a big enough response to give you an indication.
How are the businesses in town feel about this proposed ordinance? I mean, Smith's, Walmart, the big
Yeah, the big ones that when we first started considering it, I had our administrative assistant, O'Shea, called Walmart and Smith's, and they were both supportive, which I was kind of surprised because I thought that would be where the pushback would be, but they both said they would support a plastic bag initiative. Yes.
Unfortunately, there's not too many young people in here, but probably get crucified for this. But you know, they talk about the landfills. I wonder how many plastic bags cover the same volume as one disposable diaper.
Cloth diapers, right? How many of you are for that? Not me. Yeah, I have grandkids. I tried cloth diapers, not much fun. Yeah. That's right, you're right.
That's what we use our plastic bags for, is to put the.
Tie them up, yeah,
Done.
us too. Us too. Any other, yes?
Do you know what kind of issues can be put on a referendum?
I don't, so we
That's-
need to research that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I strongly suggest that the clerk's the first place to go to, because they're educated on a real high level within the state.
Yeah.
So they'll know the statutes that are coming up or what we can do and what we can't do. It's very interesting, good question.
I've read them at times and I don't remember exactly, but I do remember you can't just throw anything on the ballot. There's a process to select what's appropriate for a ballot for voting. So
We
yes,
have-
we can look at that.
Yeah, we've had one this year, a request for a opening of a liquor license, and that was the only thing that commissioners can actually ask the people to vote for rather than them. So they've actually requested to be on the next ballot for that, so people can vote on it, because and that is that you can do that. Not very many times, but it's better for the commission to say, let's hear the people, rather than them having to make the hard decisions of yes or no. So, yes. But there's lots of text
We need
messages.
to look into that.
Yeah.
The city is working to renegotiate our contract with Jacobs, who does our water services. They oversee our wastewater treatment plant. They do the sewer and water line repairs. They take care of our parks. We're trying to come up with at least $300,000 out of their contract to start working more concerted on sewer lines. And we had some issues over in the Geis neighborhood. Geis, I think it was maybe Anderman too, but Geis and Adams, Harrison, the sewer lines are really in bad shape. And so we realized that we're gonna have to, we can't just ignore that anymore. We've gotta do something. So we're trying to look at where we can pull money from to try to address that in a bigger way. Many of you probably know or have heard we put in new water meters. There's still out of 3,200 accounts, there's still about 300 meters that need to be put in. You may have noticed a jump in your water bill. And we had a couple of issues with this last billing. The month prior, a lot of the readings were estimated because we were in the transition period and they had to get done by a certain date. And so I believe our staff underestimated the month before. So then the next month you've got a new meter, which is reading better. So it's gonna show a bigger read. And then also it's gonna make up for the lower read that you had the month previous. So I know one of my months was like 114 and then the next month was 90 some. And then this read was like 115 or so. And so the $98 one was the lower estimate. And so then people are like, oh, my bill jumped quite a bit. So if you're really concerned, you can call the water department and they'll really look at it and see. The new meters are going to be great in that they read better, but they also will give us an alarm at City Hall if you have a leak. And so typically some leaks have gone on for a while and people don't know because it's under your building. You don't see any water surfacing, but this will let us know that your meter's running and that there's a leak. So that'll be very helpful, I think, to the city and to the property owners.
This question is for Mark. I know we got all Siemens to do all the work on those valves, right? And put risers and everything else. Those are brand new meters coming straight from the factory. Do we know whether they were calibrated before the city or Siemens installed them?
So that's part of what Siemens our 15-year agreement with them, that it comes out of the factory calibrated, and they calibrate a portion of those every year to make sure that the system's reading to what they promised in their specs. Their specs are in the 98th percentile.
Okay, so, that answers that one there. And the high bills on the water, I've had a lot of people, not just certain districts, but all over, that they're getting $200 and $300 water bills. And how can we figure out if they're getting the right readings or not?
So they probably didn't get the right readings
Okay?
in the estimate month. There was a transition period like Laura was talking about, where we were swapping meters,
Right?
and so we kind of had to take past 3 months is what we do, take an average and use that number. And most of the time, we'll undershoot just because, just in case, and rather than overshoot and then have to credit someone back.
And that's what, I think Laura and I had a conversation.
Mhm.
Maybe get Melissa in there, and if they see there's a big jump from $100 to $300, these people weren't ready for it. They can't afford a $300 bill. Something's wrong there. I think we need to compensate those customers.
Anybody's bills that were over 250, Melissa gave them a credit if they let her know. She's giving them a credit to account for any discrepancies. So this month now, let's see what happens. I know the council is concerned and they're wondering, do we need to lower our rates? So back in 2004, we had a water rate, it was water and sewer rate study to see if what we're charging is paying for what the cost is to provide the services. So we are looking at doing that again. So we're working on obtaining, we need about $50,000 to do a water, it needs to be water, sewer, and trash rate study, just to see like what are the expenses for those services and what are we charging, can we lower it a little bit to help our citizens out. We don't want to, I mean, we're not trying to make a profit, but we definitely need to cover our costs. Right. So we will be doing that in the next 8 months to try to do that and look at can we lower rates a little bit. And then part of that needs to be looking at other communities our size, Deming, Socorro, some of those communities. What do they charge for services? How comparable are we?
So my concern is that we're trying to get senior citizens to retire in our community. They look at all that.
Right.
And if we can keep our prices down to welcome other people on that, I think we need to move in that direction.
Right.
So if I could give a little history why this project came about, what happened is we take our total gallons pumped, what comes out of the well, and we turn around and take all the gallons that are billed and you do a plus or minus. Industry standard is anywhere from 5 to 10% loss. If you have greater than that, you have serious issues somewhere in your system. We're hovering around 48% lost.
Oh my gosh.
So I can understand that. I drive around the town all over and I see water leaks from the city pipes and everything else. You can't actually get a good reading on the water tank on your pump when we're losing so much water with broken lines and not compensating our people. So we need to look into that.
So the issue with that is Jacobs, who does our water leak repairs, and for them to be keeping on top of that.
I understand that, and they're supposed to be doing that. So you can only work at so many. They only have so many employees, just like the city has only so many employees. Mark, and you understand that. That you have one major leak, you stop fixing this little leak here and go to the major one. It only makes common sense. Take care of the big one. We had that on Santa Fe, and it was pretty drastic right before the 4th of July. So they worked all night. Let's give them credit for that, or else we would have never had a parade. So I am protecting Jacobson because I do drive around all over, and I can see that they are working.
So I guess I need to drive with you,
I
because,
think you need to drive with me.
yeah.
And I think you need to get in those holes with me to see what kind of pipe we have in there, because I've been in there.
We
still
know
have
the
that-
pipes are bad.
We still have that cast iron
Right.
ceramic type pipe that has collapsed 30
Right,
years ago.
and that's part of their contract to change those pipes out too.
Mhm.
Yep, and that's the issue we're gonna try to work with too, is we've been putting little Band-Aids when we have a leak, and then 2 weeks later, it's leaking again, right? You've seen that in your neighborhood, right? So we have that in a lot of places, so we're gonna, we're asking for, let's quit putting Band-Aids that only last a couple of weeks and let's put a new pipe in there. You're already in the ground. We've gotten some money for, yes, go ahead.
Still turn the water off neither,
No.
You're not supposed to.
but in an emergency, you have to.
Yeah, I think we'll have to work together. Typically, you can call, you can call dispatch, you can call 911 and tell dispatch you have a leak, and then Jacobs is supposed to respond within an hour.
If she got something in the house busted or something.
Yeah.
Turn it off now.
You have to turn
Right.
it off. That's
Yeah.
not- I mean, there's other
Yeah,
recourse.
we've not implemented any kind of consequence. In that case, I'm sure that they would be fine. It's when people are tampering or doing other stuff we're more concerned with.
Still has a shut-off valve in the box.
I'm not sure. Mark just left the room. I don't know if it does or not. I think it's still the same kind of setup. Yeah.
The ones that I've worked on, Andy, you can actually lift the lid up real easy, especially if you're in the middle of nowhere. And I do carry 2 different types of tools to turn the water off. Because you're right, if you can't turn the water off and your water's running on broken washing machine hose, it's flooding your floor. So no, we have to have something. An hour is not going to be enough. No
Yeah.
way.
No.
You need to turn that off right away.
Yeah.
You're
Well,
out.
I know in my house, I have a shut off in my house,
I
so.
do too, but there's others that don't.
That don't, yes, yeah. So we'll work with customers. We're not gonna expect you to let your house flood. Yeah, that's for sure. Because I know we have a lot of people shutting off their own, and I don't think they're doing any kind of penalty if it's, you were flooding and you had to shut it off. We're also working on high pressure. We have high pressure in various areas of town as well as low pressure. So one of the engineers is creating an asset map for us of where all the lines are, where all the pressure valves are. There's a software program then that we can put in place, and it will tell us where we can put additional valves to help alleviate any high pressure without causing a great amount of low pressure in some other areas. So we are working on that. That will help as far as broken pipes in ours and as well as in your homes. So that is an initiative we're working on. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Kate.
Good morning, everyone. Hello. Wow, I don't think we're ever going to slow down. I think it's a continual moving forward and learning and educating a lot of people, myself included, all the time. So I'm going to go down the list. If you have any questions, just feel free to shout them out. Budget's been approved. Great. We're carryovers are doing very healthily there. It's fantastic. It's not what I thought. I thought it was going to take 3 years, but we're actually, yes, we're very healthy, and I'm very proud of everyone working on that. We have, yes.
Approval by state auditors.
It's into the state auditors right now. So what happens is we have a software, it's called LGBMS software, and you have to submit it through this software to them. They then say, yes, we've received it, and then they're going for review. So that's where we're at. And it's actually, yesterday was the last day to put it in. So it's already in, I'm sure, Grants
Ours
as
is
well.
too.
It's a good relief, I tell you something though. When we get that in, it's like a whoosh, okay, let's do with something else. We're ready to go. So everyone is exhausted and happy. NMDOT roads, this is kind of 2 pieces together that we're working on. One is we have projects that we actually receive money for projects for school bus routes and other roads, and that is coming together, and our road superintendent is working on all the materials that are needed to work on that project. So those projects, there's 3 of them. With that, we have also started the big umbrella of working with the county's roads. There's 320 plus miles, and we have a list, it's called the maintenance list, which is, it basically shows, are they on the list for the road maintenance or not? I'm gonna just be very frank here. In the past, there's been a handshake, nod, and a wink, and for some reason, someone's very lucky to get their roads, driveways done, and roads done. And lo and behold, they're not on the maintenance list. Or we also have roads that are on the maintenance list that really we need to take off. So we're working very closely with Laguna and Acoma for the federal lands roads. Our review board has actually got 7 roads right now that we're working on. I did go for driving, which was beautiful. I was kind of afraid they were going to leave me out there, so it was absolutely amazing. I learned a lot about the roads. The review board now is at the stage of writing letters to explain to the constituents that this is what we're doing and this is how the process goes. So my plan with all the paperwork and statutes that we can't just say take it off. That we can't do that. We've got to give the residents an opportunity to know what's going on, of course. And also we have checks, you know, like one of the checks is if you want the county to maintain a road, the county has to receive the easements from every individual that lives on that road so we can actually work. If we don't have that, we cannot do it. It's an anti-donation. So you have to have that in there, checks and balances. If you have less than 4 houses on the road, that does not, unfortunately, that was the cutoff, that you can't do anything with that road. So we're just learning. All of us are learning. Audits going really well. We're more than 60% done. They got one more visit, so that's really good and exciting. I'm actually looking forward to those results. Census is 2020, every 10 years, and we are now getting ready. We're starting a committee. If there's anybody in this room that would like to be on the committee to learn how the census goes, I would just come on by. We need to have people that are willing to figure out what we need to get done to help the voting. And also, census is actually very important because all our grants that we receive, all the project money, for instance, like the NMDOT projects, they use that census information for the formulas of the money that we receive on everything, from PILT to secure rural schools to SB accounts. We want the real numbers. And so it's a kind of we need to do it because I think we're going to come out the best if we know the right numbers rather than not. So we're trying to push and help and educate. I know that, are you having a committee also?
No, we hadn't planned one.
Would you like to work together with us?
Sure.
Let's do that. So if we get a committee together, we're going to go out, especially with the tribal areas and also outside in the rural areas. We're going to do a lot of did you knows. You know, I'm hoping we can go out there and say, this is a census. It's not trying to figure out what your underwear size is. It's literally saying, we need the count. We need to know how many people are in that house. So if you're interested, I'll get hold of it. Okay. The assessors are doing great. We have a contracted from the state, Gary. We now know we only have him for 5 more months, but that is fantastic because I think the atmosphere in that department is it's very, very strong and positive. Like I said before, I think we had a normal amount of protests is usually about 450 to 500. We received only 200 this year. So they're in the process right now to do the informal protests. That is when you have an opportunity to say, I don't think you're right, county. You know, I don't think this is too much. And so they do the informal with the assessor, and they basically not argue, but they sit down and come, so the assessor can educate the people, but they can also say, I don't agree. And if you don't agree after the informal protest, then we have a hearing officer from the state, from TRD, and he will formally have a hearing on your taxes, on your property tax. There's a lot of things that we're trying to get out there so people know. We're not here to assess something wrong, but we are here to do the process correctly.
Okay.
Yes.
Just to reiterate, I was a census taker 10 years ago, whatever. The problem I had when I went around, no addresses on properties. I couldn't tell who was where and what. You'd find a conclave of maybe 6 trailers
Yes.
and no address, and you
Yes.
don't know who lived there, you don't know who to contact. Is that going to be addressed at all?
It is going to be addressed, and the 911 rule addressing now is going to help us because now we have not all, because we haven't been able to get everybody, but in areas such as that, the 911, what they've been doing, implementing the actual physical address. So when a 911 call comes up, they know where that road is. Not by road, but actually GPS. So we are going to be working on that. That was discussed with us of how we can help. I think it will be better than, when did you do the census last, 2010?
This is 2010, something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, a lot of counties have that issue.
I work with the sheriff's department and try to find
Mhm.
homes, no addresses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The city, I found
We-
the city
yeah,
and
the-
the county.
Fire chief did a big initiative a couple of years ago to try to make sure properties had their address on there, their house number. And so that gives me an idea that we need to do that again, and just, it helps with our EMS calls, but then it will help with the census
Yes.
as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
So our rural address planner will be on the committee, so we can address that, because it's, yes, you're absolutely correct. We're in 2020, we should know where everyone lives, right?
Do you know how many census takers we need?
We don't know yet, that's why the committee is going to be formed. So we'll actually have some planning, and other counties also. I do know that the census, there's been a legislation passed that counties will be receiving money if we work hard with the census. So that's a good thing, because we can actually help people and make sure that we don't, it's unfunded mandates. It always comes down to, you've got to do it because it's a statute, but we're not going to give you any money for it. So that this year they're actually trying very, very hard to address that in every way. So I appreciate that, and it's just a learning curve. I think that we'll be educating a lot of people, and myself, through this process. So every 10 years, we have to have it done. We had to have a resolution passed to say, yes, we acknowledge that the census is coming, and we approve it. I do have some kind of good news, I hope. The auction, I'm trying to go for the end of August for county vehicles. We have too many vehicles, like too many. So that's the first thing we're going to do. We're going to have an auction probably in the parking lot, have a local auction first, see how everybody can have the opportunity to look at the cars, vehicles, trucks, everything. And then if they don't sell, they'll be going on the website for Gov. Have you ever, Gov Deals? It's a website that the counties can auction things off. But we need to do that. So that's my priority next month. Oh, this month is first, huh?
It is August.
I'd like to say something about the 911 dispatch program. I don't know whether you've heard some talk. District Court has been in the complex. By statute, we have to give District Court a adequate space. For years, the county has not been aware of what they can give and statute by what they cannot give. 82% of the building that's brand new is out to other entities, not the county. We have APPO, we have Department of Health, we have the DA's office. They are using, and they don't pay anything.
Oh, wow.
Well, the APPO does. That's what we're working on, the lease agreements to get them approved by the Board of Finance. But that said, there's a lot of open space that is not being used in that complex, within the District Court area also. So we have been talking and working with District Court and Magistrate we're trying to consolidate and put all departments of the county in one property. We're going to save a lot of money. We cannot have three big buildings paying for the actual cost of the overheads. With that, we found some space that we wanted to go. And I think it was a learning curve for all of us, because the district judges did not want to do this. They did not want to lose their space, because they have, it's not just adequate, it's like the best county district courts in the state. I mean, it's a beautiful area. They have, the courtrooms are fantastic. They have 4 jury rooms. There's a lot of space that they don't actually use. So we've been back and forth for about 8-10 months, finally the commission did make a decision and they voted yes to move the 911 dispatch to the complex. So we are going for a proposal right now to get the engineers on, and then we'll get a contractor to fix the things, well, to do a few things, not few, but quite a bit to get it done. And the reason why I was trying to get this done this year is every county had, the money from the state gave the ability for all 911 dispatch to upgrade. Like the 911, this system that we are ready for the upgrade is going to assist with the GPS and 911 system. We didn't want to do that upgrade and take that money and say thank you state and put it in an old building like the 515 High Street, because we're not going to get another chunk of money like this to do that for at least 20 years. So that's why we wanted to do this first. We've been working with the state. They've come down and checked. They've got green light. It is secure. They will be having cameras and all that for the 911 dispatch. They will not be connected to district. We will continue to work on the security. I won't be surprised if we actually find more space that we can utilize, because there's a lot of space. They have a party room, okay? Yeah, they said to me, this is a party room. This is our party room.
Oh,
They
wow.
have couches and lamps. Anyway, well, that was,
And that's the district court?
that's district court. Yeah. So the difference between magistrate and district is district has a statute saying the counties have to give adequate space. Magistrate does not. So for years, that has not been taking place because they didn't know. And so they've been coming and saying, we want this, we want that, and now they don't like it because the commission know what they can do and what they can't do. So they're saying, well, thank you for asking, but no, we're taking care of the county first, and then we can assist with other departments. State funds can be used for their state buildings. So I'm the mean one, and people don't like me right now, so I apologize. Employees, we're doing a lot of training. We've stopped the reaction, we've stopped the bleed, we know what we have, we know our numbers. I'm going to throw this out here. Last year, remember we were saying that we're insolvent and there was no money? So I'm going to say it right now. There is money. We carried over in our general fund $4.5 billion. So that says that we're on track. We're spending the right things in different funds before we use the general fund. So having that knowledge really helps us to understand that the general fund is the operating account, which is pennies for the county commission. They know that is really important to spend that money wisely because it's all your money, and they're the fiscal agents and taking responsibility to do what is best for the county. I'm hoping we're going to have a role workshop on what are the county's role. What is the role of a county? You think it's the same as a city, but there's a lot of differences as well. The main things that the county needs to do is safety, welfare for our law enforcement, and that's why we have the sheriff. We have taxes that we actually assess all the properties, which we utilize that funding for operating, and we have roads. Roads are very important for the county. Our role is not to give anti-donation. We cannot give to all entities that request for funds. But that doesn't mean that we can't assist and help and find other areas. But what has happened in the past is the commission did not know, not this commission, because this commission has been amazing, but they did not know what they could give and what they couldn't give. So there was a yes. There was never a no. And that's why they exceeded their budget, their funds. They spent $9 million plus because they didn't know. They just said yes.
How is it determined which roads are state and which roads are county?
Okay, that's why we're working with the tribals and everything and the state. We have a maintenance work. There are some state roads that we're going to give back to state. There's some federal roads that we're going to give back to, the feds. but that means that we have to gain some too. So I'm trying to work with compromising. If you have an agreement with another state entity, a proper agreement, we can assist. So it's a give and take and compromise. There's a lot of roads that we will be vacating in September after the review board, and there'll be some roads that we're going to be, should have been on for many, many years, and we don't know why they're not. But it's going to be done the correct way. It's not going to have someone just saying, put that road on our maintenance list. You cannot do that. There's checks and balances, and there's only certain things that we can do to say, yes, that road does need to. And then we have a committee also that actually reviews the review board. So there's checks to make sure that we're not allowing a driveway to get done. It doesn't happen anymore. The good old boy system, done. There's too many statutes put in place for abuse just like that. So now we have to always figure out what's legal and what we can do and what we can't do. You know, even 10 years ago is different from then. It's very tight. It's good sometimes, but sometimes it's just...
The good old boy days are over.
Oh yeah,
It
absolutely.
needs to be done that way.
Mhm. It does.
Sure does.
And it's one of those things that we all have to learn at the same time. Sometimes you can't change bad habits, you know, so it's like a slowly, you know, little pieces of educating. And I learn something every day, and the commission are as well. So it's kind of neat because we have a very strong commission right now, and they actually do. I'm really enjoying what they're learning and how they're getting their confidence back up, and they're getting out there and listening. And if you do have something, you know, please come to me. My door's open, but you're welcome to use, you know, talk to your district commissioners.
Kate, what I do see out there in the county is that you've stopped a lot of that stuff, the good old boy stuff. And it used to be an entitlement by your name, and that's stopped. And
Yes.
they are very mad, but you know what? We all pay taxes here, and we're taking care of our tax money, so it can be spent.
Wisely.
It needs to be spent.
Yeah.
So Manny, how was that stopped? Did they stop it?
Kate stopped it.
Well,
To
thank
a certain
you, but
degree you did, because you put a stop to giving free gravel and everything else just because.
yeah, and I appreciate you saying that, but what I'm saying is, it's not just one person, it's
No.
educating. Commissioners are now knowing what they can do and what they can't do. They're going to their commission handbook and saying, can I do that? So they can't go and request from an employee something.
No.
They can't. They have to come to the management. So that's what they're learning, and I think it actually works because they don't have to worry about the little pieces. That's my job, you know. They shouldn't be going into employees' offices and talking. They need to come through me. Just like every employee needs to go through the protocol of going to their supervisor, and then me, and then if they're still not happy, then it's the commission. But they should not be going straight to the commission for an employee issue. So it's just those things, learning how to manage, you know. So yes, there's still some out there, but I'm learning that, you know, when I go, oh no, don't open a cupboard, I don't want to know, you know. So, but it's a learning thing, you know. It's fun. Ordinances, I started a new position. This is the last thing on my list, sorry. I actually moved Anna, who was in the she was our mapper for many, many years. This whole year I've been looking at, wondering why the mapper wasn't in the assessors department, because that's what usually normal is. Instead of going backwards, we hired a new mapper that is in the assessor's office that is being trained as we speak. I moved Anna to where I feel she's stronger and that we can get more out of her. And she's now our planning coordinator. And what she's doing right now is looking at all our ordinances that have been out there for many, many years. But I'm gonna be frank, there's no teeth to the ordinances because no one followed through. So if you have an ordinance about trash, right, and you're a neighbor, and your neighbor is trash everywhere, they call because they think it's the county. The ordinance has there's no policies and procedures to get to the end for someone to actually say, oh, I better clean my yard up, because they're going to come down and look at it, and you know. So we're now working on procedures and policies within the ordinances. And we're trying to figure out, well, we're doing really well. We're doing templates of, if this happens, this is what's going to be happening. So it's an we don't want to fine anybody. That's not this. We'd much prefer to educate and keep everybody within the county. If we do fine, I learned this couple months ago. If we fine somebody with money, it doesn't come to the county. It goes to the state. So that's not what we're not here to make money, right? We're here to educate and assist the people that live in Cibola.
I thought the code enforcer does that sort of thing.
The code enforcer is city.
Right, so you guys don't have a code enforcement
So this
for
is
the
kind
county.
of, but I've moved it kind of more roles to play. So we're literally talking to Laguna and Alca. We're figuring out how we can use our ordinances. So if we don't, why do we have ordinances? Ordinances are law. It's the only thing that commissioners can do is put an ordinance together. But if they're not following through, there's no point to have an ordinance. So that's what we're working on, and it's kind of interesting to watch Anna love what she's doing, and we're learning. So right now it's a trial period for a year, and then we're going to see how it works and what's going on. So
I have a question.
Yes.
There's been some comments in the past regarding proper tax payments for property,
yes,
and I understand that the assessors were going to come up with a proper evaluation. How is that?
thank you. Good question. That's when we had the contractor from state, because we had to ask for help. We've changed some employees over there. We've trained them. They are being assessed. They are getting trained by the state to properly go out there and assess. And the pictometry, I don't know whether you remember me saying that we said that we've got this new software for pictometry, and the planes go through and it's 3D. So not only are we going to help the assessor make sure there's no houses that have been put up there and they can't get to it, so it's going to assist that, but it's also going to assist with emergencies and roads. We can actually then, with that, we can know what the width is and see if it is up to spec and why, and not, we're going to know all that information. Knowledge is power. So with the assessments, there's always mistakes, right? And there's always things that just don't come together that year. Go to the assessor, explain to them. If you think you've been assessed incorrectly, you need to go and talk to the assessor, because there's a procedure that they can actually go out there and reassess. That is a statute. They have to address your concerns with your property. And the valuation is basically a state formula. People don't know that they've put so many checks and balances. It's like, people say, well, he's a commissioner, so he's not going to, his taxes are going to be low, right? That is not true at all. Never has been for many, many years, because unfortunately for elected officials, the first thing that TRD does when they come to review is they go out to every elected and appointed positions in a hierarchy, and every property that they own will be assessed not by the county assessor, but by the state. So they're doing checks and balances for that. And that's what we're trying to get across to everybody. It's not anymore who you are. And I do feel that we are not giving, and if we are, you need to let me know if you think it's not right. You need to go to the assessors. But the assessors' formula right now, they're doing great. It's working. So there's just statutes that come in place that we're protecting everybody.
Any other comments?
The old buildings on High Street, are they being maintained?
The 515
The
High Street?
old buildings on High Street?
We do have our maintenance go down there twice a week. There's two. We have the dispatch there right now, and we have the emergency management. So
Who is the yard?
the yards,
Pretty-
yes, I agree.
Pretty unfair.
Yes, it is, and we've already talked about that. So there will be some changes down there. We've been working with the McBride building right now also with the weeds and everything. So they're going there. They will be.
Right before Riverwalk.
Yes. It needs to be pretty, yeah. It's green, it needs to be green. So thank you for bringing that up.
Jerry?
Two questions. I like the sidewalk that put me down through the Walmart.
Yes,
Takes people off the street when you drive out there. But
yeah.
on the flip side of that, I appreciate the fact that we have our own asphalt equipment. Is there anything in the works to send our crew to actually learn how to do it the right way? Because I know on High Street between First and Second, then 3 weeks after they got done laying it, number one, they're overlapping the lanes, but then 3 weeks it's beginning to trouble.
Yeah, yeah, we did send to our mechanic and one of our head of our street department to a class in Phoenix. It was a week-long class. We also had the DOT come out and work with them on the job and advise them and try to train them. The issue that I'm finding is then we've had some turnover in staff, and so then the crew that learned left, and there's a few new people, and so it's a constant training. But we are trying to reach out to local experts to help us. The Golden Equipment is where we got our equipment from, and the gentleman who was their representative here worked for the DOT for years. And so he's been really good to come out on the site and work with our crew. We just hired a new street foreman about 4 months ago, and he had been an employee of the DOT, and he's got a lot more knowledge, so he's really helping the crew. He's a very hands-on out in the field all the time, so we're noticing a big difference. But yeah, it's an ongoing effort to train them, bring them up to speed.
What's the status of the street sweeper?
They're still working on that. It's functioning, but our operator, we had one operator, and he was out on medical leave, family medical leave, so they haven't had it out. So we're trying to train some other staff to be able to get out and operate it correctly. We had the company who makes the machine came out and did a special training for everybody, and so I know initially we had lots of complaints because it was throwing out a lot of dirt and creating more dust than it was doing good. So we're still working on that issue.
Let me comment on the street department of doing all the potholes. We actually have somebody that actually knows what he's doing. If you notice, all the patchwork that's been done is not it's all smooth. So I give them credit, a lot of credit for them working and fixing our potholes. Because that's a never-ending job, and we're going to have everybody complaining in a different part of the city. They can only work one section at a time. But they are doing a great job.
I actually thought about taking Davos up on their thing, they come on asphalt.
Yeah, pizza.
Yes.
How did we find the man who's opening the coffee shop? Was he already a resident here, or was that marketing?
It was through marketing, I believe. He, it's kind of an interesting story. I don't know if he wants me to share it, but he and his wife had been looking at it, and I don't know where they had seen the information, but they were new to town, and they were preparing to open it, and they had a car accident, and she was killed in the accident. And so that was about 7 or 8 months ago. So now he's at the point where he's ready to go ahead and follow through on that plan that the two of them had had.
So he was already living here?
He was living here, yes.
Is anybody gonna do anything with the BLM about the Erie Canal that we got running through the city? They're gonna clean up some of that weeds and dirt? Or what happens if mosquitoes come in there? And the Nile virus is around here. Is the city or the county or the state, federal government gonna compensate people for what happens, for the diseases?
Yeah, I don't believe you'll be compensated, but there is a concerted effort. I know the county, the village, and the city all share in what we call vector control, and we have a really great program out there that weekly they're out there, and they begin the process in February, treating the frozen ground where mosquitoes might harbor or where we end up with standing water.
We clean it, do they pay us for cleaning? Is it?
No, but there is a program through the Rio San Jose Flood Control District where we can get compensated for some money for cleaning the canal.
There's also,
Someone,
Yes,
If-
not fully, but there is some, maybe $30,000 to $50,000. Yes.
there's also issues with that in the sense of the Corps of Engineers. If there's areas that we need to go down and let's say clean, and we have to get permits from the, and it's very difficult. We're not supposed to go down there in the creek. We're not allowed to. We'll get fined through the EPA. But the Corps of Engineers are the ones that if you have a problem like that, you've got to get the real permits together to do that. And it is a long, horrible process.
Yes.
They say, well, the county and the city employees are probably doing a very good job doing what they do. I'd like to commend Robert Windhorse, the compliance officer. You go out anytime, and he's out there.
Yeah.
Every weekend, every day. He's doing a fine job. I'd like to know that.
That's good to hear. I know we get some complaints because there's such a great need for cleanup, weeds and trash, and he is trying to address it, but it's a long process to get people to comply and, you know, try to work with them to clean up their properties.
And we as a county, every week now, Robert Windhorse is going over and actually doing a cleanup. And he's so, every weekend he's got a place to go to because he texts me and says, Kate, can you get a backhoe down there? And he gets the dumpsters, he organizes it all, and then we just pay for one person to go out there and smash the trash. And it's amazing how much trash they get. It's like a continual week job.
Yeah, the city hired 3 individuals about 3 months ago that are going out part-time. They usually work in the mornings, but I've given them some key areas in town that get trash, like over by Walmart, and they're picking up trash. So I'm hoping we'll see a bigger effort with that. It gets kind of frustrating when you go and clean up and then 2 weeks later you see more trash, but we're really working on 2 education program in the schools, because I think until we teach the public that it's not okay to throw your trash to help take care of our properties, then we're just going to keep picking up after people. Yes.
Comment on the vector control, I will say that whoever did the area off of Organics did a great job this year, because I stole them mosquitoes in my yard, and by now I'm usually got with mosquitoes on.
Right.
That's
He's
really
working-
nice to hear.
Yeah,
Thank you.
he's working really hard and very responsive to
Oh my
any
gosh.
request we
Every
have.
day we get emails and them telling us what's going on.
Right.
And if we have a question and we
Yes.
want something done, all we need to do is email and it's done. We're very impressed.
If a citizen calls or we call
Yeah.
and say, hey, we've got, you know, a bad area in this neighborhood, he gets right on
Yeah.
it. And I just heard this morning about West Nile in the Bosque, and I know there's, I can't remember what it's called, VSS or
S3S, no, CF.
something, it's 3 initials, SVS or something. There's some kind of new virus out
It's out in
there,
Cebolleta.
and it's hit San Juan and some other counties. I think we have a case in Cebolleta, but it's a virus that attacks livestock and then can be passed on to humans. But I suspect we're going to get hit. You know, when you have diseases present, then it gives him more authority to do more.
Yeah.
Because it's very controlled on how much you can spray and fog to protect humans. And so I think he's going to be able to do a lot more now that we're seeing a little bit of diseases pop up. Yes.
Just a suggestion, I saw the street names when I was coming over. Is there any way you can highlight the manhole covers where they're real deep or maybe sticking up?
Yeah, I mean, so that people know that there's, yeah, okay.
That's a pretty good idea.
Yeah. We're supposed to get them flush, but, but I guess when they're not, at least highlight
Well,
them.
you're resurfacing several areas and some of them pretty deep.
Yeah, okay.
I have to tell on myself, it's kind of funny but not funny. I moved to Milan 2 weeks ago, and I'm learning how to, you know, where to go and how to drive, but there's this huge bump, like road bump, and I didn't know, I couldn't see it, it wasn't painted very well, and I went flying, okay, so if everybody saw that, I did, I just went straight through it, you know, And I made a comment like, oh my God, I didn't even see that bump, and everybody's going to take me, I'm going to be the main, person on the Citizen newspaper, county manager speeds over the bump. So I was thinking all this, and then I must have said something at work, and literally within a day, it's painted. I was amazed. I was like, oh my God, maybe they really saw what I did. So, just so you know.
Right.
But it was just like that. So yeah, I tell on myself quite a bit.
Have we got anything new coming into town for construction, any new industries? I keep hearing that people are talking, but we never hear what the results are. And why, if there's people that have been talking about it, people reject grants. Why?
Well, because we're a rural community and people are moving away from rural communities. All the data shows that the populations are going towards the cities. I think eventually people will be tired of the cities and say, hey, I want to live in a slower paced communities, but the younger generation are not as interested in rural communities as our forefathers might have been. But we still are working on the refinery out in Milan as a regional team. And it looks very hopeful. It looks like we've got the support we need from the governor's office. And so the other thing, I know the mayor's going to have a meeting again. We've met once with, but I don't know if you guys noticed coming out here today that there were people working in the greenhouse.
Yeah.
And they've got a big plan, and they're asking the city if we have 300 acre feet of water to provide for their startup operation. And so I think they're talking with electric and gas companies, and I'm not sure who else, but of course I always say I'll believe it when I see it, because I think 5 years ago they talked about starting that back up, and so everything takes so long. But there is a group, and they're looking at 150 jobs to get this greenhouse going. They have a satellite operation supposedly in Acoma, so that's a possibility. Eileen Yarbrough, who's with Economic Development, has gone to a lot of what are considered trade shows this summer to market our community and get our name out there. Chris Roybal, our marketing director, went to a week-long economic development conference in Silver City and just got back and made a lot of contacts, and also is learning how do we really market our community and draw people in. And personally, I think it's going to be the little mom and pop shops that we really need to focus on. I don't know that we'll really be able to bring in too many big industry, but the more restaurants, the more little mom and pop curio stores or little retail stores, I think we could support that and develop in that way.
Tattoo parlors or money loaned in places that charge you $120. We don't need that. We got enough of that now.
No, we don't need any loan businesses, right, anymore.
How many are there?
I don't know, but I know Gallup did something a few years ago to try to limit the number of loan businesses opening up. Yeah, we don't need any more of that. But, it's tough because we provide services. We're not business people, but we realize we've got to market our community to try to attract business. We need some young entrepreneurs that want to start a business. There's lots of opportunity. I mean, one of our flower shops closed, and it didn't close because it wasn't doing well. It closed because the individuals wanted to retire. We have several restaurant owners that are getting to retirement age. Are we going to be able to find new people to come in and take on those businesses? It's a little scary.
We give them incentives.
What we can, there's some state level incentives, but as Kate frequently talks about the anti-donation, there's a LEDA Act that we can try to work with businesses as far as property goes, but you have to create a LEDA ordinance and stuff, but there's really a fine line as to what we can contribute or give away. But there are state level tax incentives for
That
businesses.
industrial park out there by the senior citizens, I don't think anything's going to ever happen out there. They got to blast all that
Yeah,
Also-
you know, Continental Divide is building their new big office out there. And the great thing about that is they provide internet. And so when an industry is looking at our community, they're looking at the quality of high-speed internet. So with Continental Divide out there, they'll have access to high-speed internet very easily. So that's going to be a big plus, and we might see it spur some more development out there.
It's like Comcast has moved out of town, so now you got a Dish or DirecTV.
Right, but
Yes.
Sacred Winds has expanded, and so has Continental Divide. So they're taking up what Comcast had. Yeah.
Let's hope
I
it
was
works.
wondering, go ahead.
No, it's okay.
I was just wondering, what is the status of the Cibola Hospital? That would bring in a lot of more people in here if we had more services.
I agree completely. We're working with the hospital very closely. We have our legal team also they're at that stage of talking. We're learning a lot. Things change on a daily basis right now with the hospital.
Yeah.
The commissioners are trying to figure out what the community think. We do want the hospital to upgrade their ER and put some more beds in. They're in the smaller areas. So as a rural hospital, they have 25 beds. And I know that if they can continue a little bit more, they bring more services to
Right.
Bronx.
Right.
And they are, I know they're working on that.
Mhm.
We're talking with them because we own the properties.
Mhm.
And we're working with TRD, Department of Finance, ourselves, hospital. We're learning things that we didn't know on a daily basis.
Right.
And let me just say, I went to the state auditor's meeting. I was invited to state auditor. And after an hour, they told me all this information, and I think my jaw dropped like, oh, crap, we can't do this. So one of my attorneys took me out to have lobster, because he was really worried about me, because I was like, oh my gosh, this is like another drawer that I don't know how we're going to push back in. So, but we're going to have to do it. In the past, things like this has happened, and they don't want to they don't know how to handle it, so they brush it under the rug for the next commission, or they brush it under the rug for the next,
Yeah.
CEO for the hospital. We're not doing that. We're going to sort this out. We have to. We've got to figure out what we know is what is right, and it's back and forth. I think we're going to be having a meeting with the hospital board and the commission at the same time. But the Open Meetings Act does not allow us to have that without an open session. So the only way we can sit down is have it's going to say, in executive session, have all of them discussing their concerns and where we want to go and what is law and what isn't and what we own and what the hospital owns. All these questions are coming up. We have to put it under executive session. You have three ways you can talk in executive session. You've got pending litigation, and that's the one that we will use to get everyone to the table. So we're nearly there to have that conversation. So yes, we want to upgrade the ER.
Yeah, and and to get more services.
Yes.
There's a lot of people that I know have to travel to Albuquerque and Gallup for different services like cancer centers or something,
Yes.
or just a shot or something like that. And so it's difficult that way. They don't have anything here.
Yeah.
And of course, it could be because of the population. You don't have the population or whatever.
Well, it's trying to get providers to come to a small rural community. They may not want to live here, or if we go through a contract service. I know a lot of the nurses come in from out of town, and the fee for the contract nurses is a lot more than if it's somebody you hire that lives here.
Yeah.
As someone who's worked for the government and somebody who worked for 14 years for Future Foundations, which was a nonprofit, and I had a board of directors, I publicly would like to see the hospital stay under a nonprofit board of directors, because the nonprofit board of directors are citizens like you and I who are not elected officials, who are not trying to win votes by doing a favor for somebody and then they'll vote for me. They're people who are really typically looking out for the best interest of the nonprofit, whether it be the hospital or the community center or the domestic violence shelter. So I know I've heard some concern, some concern from some elected officials saying that it needs to stay under the county government. I don't think that's a good thing because the county elected officials, or elected officials as a whole, tend to do favors for their buddies and look out for their special agendas, rather than if you were on the hospital board, you're looking out for services for your friends and family and what's best for the hospital, not what's best for me as an elected official. So I've had the experience of both, and if I had my choice, it would stay under a nonprofit board who doesn't have these special agendas typically that you find with government.
Owns the hospital. I know the county runs it, but who actually owns it?
Thanks very much.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
People need to know.
Okay.
People need to know.
But we're still learning, we don't know what's right or what's wrong right now. So the state auditor has basically said the hospital is a component unit of the county. There's so much stuff that has happened in the past that might not have been quite correct. But we're trying to, I'm not going to brush this under the rug. So right now, we have been told by the state auditor that the county owns the hospital, not the properties and the operations. That was what was told to me in the state auditor's meeting. Think about it. We wanted to sell. Commissioners wanted to say, if the hospital wants it and they're going to go and they're going to do what they say and they can control what the property, we were thinking of, we wanted to sell it. The commission was like, we're all together, we're all trying to get a hospital that's going to be better and, for everybody. We're still still doing the talks. Like, I'm having meetings with the AG's office now. I need an opinion. We need to come up, because everyone is not helping us, because it's, one minute they say yes, next minute they say no, and we don't know. So the poor boards are having to make some really difficult decisions. Just because we've been told that the hospital is owned by the county, that does not mean that you're not going to have a nonprofit organization running the hospital. That is exactly why we're doing this right. So thank you for the conversation, but I can't give, because we don't know. So I can't give the information because we're still trying to compile it. And I don't want it to be the wrong information out there.
So if you look at the hospital, the employees are not employees of the county. They're employees of the nonprofit corporation. The licenses to bill, to provide services are all through the nonprofit. So the corporation is not owned by the county. And I disagree with the Office of the State Auditors. The Office of the State Auditors are people just like you and me, and they make mistakes, and there's high turnover in staff.
Yes.
Of those individuals. Many of them haven't been there very long, and they don't, and interpretations of state regs, that's why we have so many attorneys, is left up to interpretation. But I know the Family Center had a separate corporation that ran the Family Center. In fact, all the materials inside the hospital, the equipment, all belongs to the corporation, was bought by the corporation. The new clinic was built by the corporation, not the county, out of their money. The county manager at that time,
Not me.
Not you, insisted that they put the new clinic in the county's name, but it really, if you look at it, it was bought with the corporation's money.
It's a mess.
It really is.
It's huge, and it's something, you're absolutely right. The state auditor has their opinion. That's why I'm going to get another opinion on the legal side, because we're still going, this cannot be right. What we're hearing doesn't make sense in a lot of ways, and there's history out there that there's some really bad history that we really have to pull the weeds out and really find out exactly why the county had to own that building.
Okay, can I
Yes.
way back when, probably 10, 15, 20 years back. The hospital was in bad shape. So I'm trying to remember, actually, I don't remember everything the way it went. It was actually up to the citizens. You know, if I'm not mistaken, the tax money from the citizens filled that out. So it actually belongs to the citizens.
Absolutely, that's what
Yes.
we're trying to do.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
that's exactly what we're there for. Both of us, all entities involved with this. It's not about control, guys. It's not about going, we own it, we're gonna do what,
Right.
no. It means working together for the people of the Cibola because it's our hospital.
It is our county
Yes.
hospital, and I mean, not just Grants,
Yes.
the county. So there was a county that
Yes.
got the tax to save the hospital.
We actually got a bond.
Up on.
And yes, you're absolutely right, but I just want you guys to be reassured this is not a battle of power. Absolutely. They are all on the same page. So we're just trying to make sure what is real, what is fact, and what is emotion and rumor.
I've talked to both sides, and it's not a matter of the money. It's a matter of distrust against each other.
Yes,
And that's the problem we have with our
Yes.
community. The hospital board's a great board. They do a good job. The county's a good county. It's just a mistrust of, how many millions in there?
oh, with the millions you're talking about? Well, I haven't even actually looked at their 18 audit because it's still under review, which is driving me crazy because we can't do our audit without them
Right.
doing their audit. So with that said, 2 years ago, the state auditor did a proper review. We are not the only county
No.
that has this issue. It is everywhere. Taos, Grant, they're all having these issues that should have been fixed a long time ago. But right now, I'm thinking 20 million cash.
So I wanted to hear, thank you.
The CEO in a recent presentation said the corporation is the board of directors, and the board of directors have the authority to make all the decisions concerning the hospital.
Yeah.
Yes. And they're
Absolutely.
citizens like you and me.
Mhm.
Yeah.
They're from the, yes, that's exactly where we're all at. We're just cleaning it up, trying to, and we're not gonna put it under the rug for the next manager or next county, next commission, because it's a mess.
Any other comments, ideas? Say it. Thank you, we sure appreciate your attending. Appreciate all of your feedback. Thank you.
Thank you.